Bom dia, né, a todos e todas. Estamos começando mais uma edição especial do programa Conexão Internacional. E hoje é um programa bastante interessante, é um programa que a gente tentou fazer esse diálogo, né, acontecer no dia 8 do ano passado, no dia 8 de dezembro de 2020, com o Sudão, mas infelizmente por questões técnicas, né, naquele momento ali do nosso camarada não foi possível. E hoje a gente vai dar, né, mais esse passo importante para conhecer a história, a trajetória de luta, né, dos trabalhadores e trabalhadoras do Sudão, sobretudo nesse contexto de pandemia. E para comandar o programa de hoje, quero convidar nosso camarada Eduardo Serra, que é secretário de Relações Internacionais do Partido Comunista Brasileiro. Bom dia, Serra.
Bom dia, Rômulo. Vamos dar início agora ao nosso diálogo com o Partido Comunista Sudanês, que estava marcado para dezembro, como você falou, mas por razões técnicas da transmissão lá no Sudão, não foi possível. Agora estamos em boas condições e eu queria, então, chamar o nosso camarada Sidig Eltoum, que é responsável pela comunicação política do Partido Comunista Sudanês, do Comitê Central do Partido Comunista Sudanês.
Beleza, que bom programa para vocês, tá?
Ok.
Vou chamar o nosso camarada.
Comrade Sidig Eltoum, be welcome to our program, International Connection.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I am very happy and delighted to be invited by your forum to speak and to address. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Ok, eu dei as boas-vindas ao camarada Sidig Eltoum, e ele agradece ao convite e diz que é uma grande satisfação estar aqui conosco do Partido Comunista Brasileiro. Comrade Eltoum, I would like you to talk a bit about the country, about Sudan, its population, its structure, so that we may have a better idea of what the country is like. Eu pedi a ele para falar um pouco sobre o Sudão, a sua população, suas características, para nós conhecermos melhor o país.
Sudan is the most ancient civilization of human civilization in the world. Its history goes back into 1500 BC, and the country is known through many historians by the history of what has been identified as Kosh Kingdom or the Black Pharaohs that everybody has been knowing. The country is known of its heritage of history. It's according to Herodotus, the great historian, is the fairest nation on earth who met and worship one god. It's according to Herodotus, that's the famous Greek historian. So Sudan is well known for the Kosh Kingdom in the very ancient history, and in the present history is it's a country that in the center of Africa as a heart. It was the heart of Africa, and it was a British colony, and people of Sudan speaks Arabic and English. Those are the most common language. But after independence, the country has struggled a lot towards getting stability, and there was a very strong history of resisting imperialism in Sudan, where Sudan has let's say made the people of Sudan has made three remarkable revolutions, and the political history of the country is very diverse. The people of Sudan can be considered as the most poor people in the world. It could be number 5 as an aid recipient country globally, but the in terms of rich, this country is one of the richest country in terms of resources, like gold, like oil, and like agricultural spaces that are available and for farming.
Então, ele disse que o país, o Sudão, tem uma história muito antiga, né, que vem lá do século XV antes de Cristo, e que uma parte do país pertencia ao Egito, né? Vieram cristãos no século XIV da nossa era, e depois uma confederação árabe, né, já no século XV. Mais tarde, já no século XIX, o Sudão foi ocupado pelo Império Otomano, Egito e Grã-Bretanha, Inglaterra. E ele fala que o Sudão é um país do centro da África, que foi, mais recentemente, uma colônia britânica, né? Fala-se árabe, fala-se inglês, e tem uma longa tradição de resistência ao imperialismo, né? E é um país rico em recursos naturais, tem ouro, tem petróleo e tem terras agriculturáveis, terras arábias, né? Então, isso gera cobiça do poder imperialista. Okay, let me ask you a second question. Can we talk about the Sudanese bourgeoisie? And which are the main economic activities of the country? Estou perguntando se pode falar de uma burguesia sudanesa e quais são as principais atividades econômicas do país.
Well, in Sudan, the history of bourgeoisie has always related to as a class of people who makes money between the native people of the country, and the outside world, and in relation to trade mostly. And this has been always the case from, let's say, 8th century ago. This has been always a continuation of a specific class. We call the local bourgeoisie here, the way we identify them, as the word of Jalaba. This is the word of the bourgeoisie. So the Jalaba is the class of the people that has been always dominating the power, and the history of Jalaba of Sudan has always related to the military forces within the country. So it was a very strong history and a very tight history between the Sudanese bourgeoisie. After independence, we could identify that most of the Jalaba have become like what we call them in our lyrics local language, like la comprador. Those are the people who would identify them like that, and those would shrink and minimize the group of the people who really dominate the wealth within the country. And the local the Sudanese bourgeoisie has been always related to the colonial forces, and this is still the case in Sudan, as we identified now. The country could be very clear in terms of class stratification and how we identify, like among Sudan. Some studies indicates that around 90% of the people are very poor Sudanese, and only 10%. Within this 10% of bourgeoisie, only like 2% who really controls the resources of the country,
Ok, eu vou traduzir, né? Ele fala que a burguesia sudanesa sempre teve fortes relações com o comércio exterior, quer dizer, com o mundo exterior, né? Então, eles têm uma palavra que é gelaba, que é o nome que eles dão à burguesia sudanesa, que é também associada às forças militares. Então, existe a relação com o exterior e a relação com as forças militares no país. Essa relação se tornou mais forte depois da independência do país, né? E há um processo de redução do tamanho desse grupo dominante. Então, esse grupo dominante é quem controla a riqueza produzida no país. Então, essa burguesia sempre foi associada a forças coloniais, antes da independência, e agora ao comércio exterior, e internamente às forças militares. Então, ele diz que o país tem 90% da população em condições muito pobres, e dentro dos 10% restantes, a burguesia compõe 2%, que realmente quem controla o país, 2% da população. 10% são camadas médias e 90% são muito pobres. Ok. Well, I'll ask you about the working class. What's the composition of Sudanese working class? Are there peasants? Are there industry workers? What's the composition of Sudanese working class? Estou perguntando pela composição da classe trabalhadora sudanesa.
We in our case is the most of production force comes from the peasant community. Most of the people are farmers or herding animals. This is the majority. This is the main activity. As I can explain, the country is very, very rich in terms of animal resources. It could be number 4 worldwide. And in terms of agriculture, it has the biggest in the world. How do you call it? The scheme for the which called the Jazeera scheme is the biggest. What do you call? On regular flow of water that irrigates the land. So the working class emerged from this. We don't have like an industrialized sort of society, because even the existing industries that has not been able to develop or to move forward within the country because of the economical crisis that the country is facing since independence, and because of the what we call the parasite sort of activities that our capitalist has been always exercising over the economy of the country. So we don't have like labor in the factories like a very big sort of thing, but we have farmers, we have things. But within that we have the country structure could be like most of the population are very young people, and the population permit could go to the majority of the people in the society are people in the youth age between 20 and 40. This is the biggest sort of population, and most of them are idle, or either they are students or they're still or idle. They don't find job opportunities because of the crisis that the country has been experiencing, and because of also wars. And then you have war who become an industry. within the country, and that's one of the biggest challenges that Sudan also is facing. So we have militia being recruited to fight inside the country and outside the country, and this takes a step towards the relationship within the region. So we have young Sudanese that were fighting in Yemen war and in Libya war, and nowadays also they are trying to trigger a third war. But within the country also there is instability and there is infrequent sort of military operation takes place. So the country is completely unstable.
Bom, ele fala que o país é basicamente agrário, né? Então tem muitos pequenos fazendeiros que fazem agricultura e criam animais, que é muito forte essa atividade. E essa população é basicamente muito jovem e o nível de desemprego é muito alto. Então ele fala que praticamente não há indústria. A indústria que existia antes da independência não se desenvolveu muito, né? E que depois da crise uma parte dela se desativou. Então, o que é um desafio para o país hoje, voltar a ter indústria, e que também uma parte da população jovem está nas Forças Armadas, e muitos vão para o exterior atuar nas Forças Armadas de outros países, né, em guerras na região. E que é um país muito, muito instável politicamente, onde a presença militar é muito forte, né, sempre operações militares que atuam e intervêm nesse contexto de instabilidade que caracteriza o país. Okay, let me ask you now about the Communist Party, Sudanese Communist Party. It was founded in 1946, and its history is strongly connected to the struggle for independence and in favor of the working class. We would like you to describe the party's trajectory, its theoretical background, and its present actions. Eu estou perguntando a ele sobre a história do Partido Comunista Sudanês, que foi criado em 1946 e tem uma história muito ligada à luta pela independência e em favor da classe trabalhadora. Eu pedi a ele para descrever a trajetória do partido, a sua fundamentação teórica e as ações presentes.
Okay. So the Communist Party of Sudan was founded, as you mentioned, in 46, but its roots goes back into 1924, where they had communication between some of the active people who lately became the founders of the party, and with Stockholm, they got the most of the information from Stockholm and Sweden and parts of the Scandinavian countries. They got it, who came into the country and some people who came to the country as soldiers with the British colony, colonization. But also we have ties that go that takes the thing with because the country was like an Anglo-Egyptian and the Anglo-Egyptian sort of colonization. We got some information from there. But the party was founded initially as a resistance to the colonial thing. Even the name of the party at that era, at that time, was called looking for independence. But at the same time, the party started, and the Brits was very harsh in dealing with the country. But the country is also known for for rebellion in its history. And the party was active also in establishing a very strong civil society within the country. So the party also contributed to that, and also contributed to establishing a very strong women movement, especially in the urban areas, and that has been fruitful. That the country has been able to get women into the parliament even before some European countries to get the nation vote for women, and women could enter the parliament in the history. Even before many other European countries, Sudan has been able to lead in that area. Also, the civil society has been also strong, and within the railway movement, there has been also a very strong labor sort of organization that has led and organized many of the resistance, and the country also known to have a very strong communist movement among the students. And that's also translated into to get the most intellectual sort of people within the country to be either at that era after independence. So either you are a leftist, which is a communist, and or an Islamist, which is a right-wing sort of ideology. And later on, you can maybe in some another occasion explain to you where about this.
Então, ele fala que o partido foi criado em 1946, mas tem antecedentes com estudantes sudaneses e militares que vieram como soldados britânicos, né, na época da ocupação, que vem lá de 1924. Então, tem presença de sudaneses na Europa que voltam ao Sudão com as ideias comunistas, né? E também o partido sempre se bateu contra a exploração colonial da Inglaterra e do Egito, no período que Egito e Inglaterra dominavam o país, e a ação principal nesse momento do Partido Comunista era contra o colonialismo, e que enfrentou sempre muita repressão das forças inglesas, né? E o partido sempre esteve lutando contra o colonialismo e em rebeliões, né? Promovendo rebeliões contra o colonialismo. Também um papel importante do Partido Comunista foi a criação, o esforço de criação de uma sociedade civil no Sudão, de organizações da sociedade civil. Ele ressaltou a importância que o partido teve e tem no movimento das mulheres, né? O movimento das mulheres. O Sudão é um país islâmico, né? Então isso é bastante relevante, que hoje tem cadeiras no parlamento, né? E no movimento político. E ele fala também da presença do partido no meio estudantil, no meio intelectual, e que no país ou você tem um pensamento islâmico ou comunista, né, que é basicamente como se divide o pensamento. Então, é um partido que tem muita influência no país, muita influência nas lutas do país. Ok, so I'll make another question. The period between the independence in 1956 and the present has been marked by civil wars and a series of coups d'etat. Which were the actions taken by the party along this period? Let me translate the question. Estou perguntando porque, assim, no período entre a independência em 56 até o presente, houve muitas guerras civis e uma série de golpes de Estado no país. Eu estou perguntando quais foram as ações que o partido realizou nesse período.
So immediately after independence, there was a major issue within the country that the rising of a very strong intellectual and also an alliance between intellectuals and the communists and the left, and this has been flourishing and growing rapidly during the era of the independence. So, but it led to a major intervention in the politics of the country. Between the struggle was between the traditional forces, which goes to religious groups and goes back to the Sufi community within Sudan, who converted into political forces also and became the major biggest political parties. But the first coup d'etat, let's say it could be triggered by a major battle where there was an awareness among the leftists to reject aid, and this is something very interesting for many researchers that would study. The country has rejected the American aid during the 58, I think, and the people went on the street rejecting that the country should not be an aid recipient at all. So part of it, this has led that the governing party has used the army in order to take over power, in order to accept the aid and fully control the country. 4 years, it was overthrown by a revolution, and the regime was the coup was overthrown by a revolution, and the revolution mainly led by the Communist Party, who played a major role at that time. And after that revolution, there was a short transitional area, and then there was a democratic period where the communists started to enjoy and grow big in the country. But this has led also that the other political forces of the right wingers and the colonial forces has been also pushing for to sack the communist party members from the parliament. And although there was a constitutional court, and the constitutional court rejected their decision and insisted that the party members goes back to the parliament, but there was a rejection, and after that there was a coup that has been led by some leftist and Arab nationalist officers that tried to establish what they called the socialist state. The Communist Party rejected somehow that let's say that aspiration, and they insisted on following a sort of a democratic transformation for the country. So
okay, let me translate, and then we keep on. Keep on answering from the socialist period. Okay?
yes.
Então, vou traduzir, né? Ele fala que sempre houve uma aliança dos intelectuais, né, com os comunistas e as esquerdas, né? E essa aliança sempre enfrentou as forças tradicionais, né, tradicionalistas, religiosas e tal. E que houve muitos golpes nesse período, um deles que enfrentou, né, o movimento popular, que rejeitava a ajuda americana, ajuda entre aspas, né, que era para controlar o país, e que então forças que defendiam essa ajuda e essa ingerência americana, o exército, né, buscadas pelo exército, deram um golpe para garantir isso. Então, com isso, houve uma oposição aos comunistas e às esquerdas, né? E que, em seguida, há uma transição desse golpe com uma rebelião, quase que uma revolução, que os comunistas tiveram muita participação, né, também as forças democráticas, e nesse momento o Partido Comunista cresceu bastante. E há um enfrentamento com essas forças colonialistas e tal, que pressionam para retirar os representantes comunistas do parlamento, e que logo em seguida tem um outro movimento que nacionalistas árabes e mais forças de esquerda chegam ao poder e se inicia um período que se pode chamar de um período socialista no Sudão. Okay, so I would like you to talk a bit more about the socialist period.
Yes, so the party at that time split it, and some of the members that and the leaders has opted to join the coup and become part of the government. Others have rejected this, and they insisted that the way that the communists go into government should be through a democratic process. And this has been always the case for us in the Sudan. That this has been the main what do you call, the main option that we choose, and distinguish us with many other communist movement around the world at that era, especially the 70s. So this has been also led to a very sad event where the major who was governing the country at that time, Jafar Numeri, who decided to kill all the communist leader on the country. So communists were targeted all over Sudan, and they were chased. And this has also combined also with the war and the resistance which emerged from South Sudan, which also has somehow ties to the left in general, and the resistance seems to be more into the left at that time in the South. But at the same time, the split has also led that we had our Secretary General at that time assassinated, and within that time, and most of the leadership of the party were killed. But many members of the central committee of the party at that time were killed, including the Secretary General and the rest. And whomever survived, he managed to escape from the killing, and it was a very sort of major bloody era in the country.
Okay. This government was a pro-Soviet one, yes?
Yes.
Ok. Então, ele está falando mais um pouco sobre esse período nos anos 70, em que há um movimento de esquerda, e mais com a associação dos nacionalistas árabes, que chega ao poder e cria um governo pró-soviético no Sudão, né? E começa um processo de ações, de reformas, etc., até que vem um novo golpe que derruba esse governo e se inicia uma intensa perseguição, né, aos grupos de esquerda, principalmente aos comunistas, e muitos membros do partido, do Comitê Central do partido, são assassinados nesse período. E esse movimento ele vai muito contra a região sul do Sudão, que deveria sofrer um processo de separação, por criação do Sudão do Sul, né, onde havia muita presença de grupos mais à esquerda. Mas alguns conseguem sobreviver, alguns dirigentes do partido sobrevivem e viriam, então, a dar continuidade à recriação, né, do Partido Comunista. Okay, so let me ask you now about more recent times. So the General Omar al-Bashir came to power in 1989 after having overthrown the previous government of Sidig al-Mahdi. The parties were banned, and the influence of Islamism increased in the country at that time. What can be said about this period?
Well,
so let me translate the question so people.
Yes,
Estou dizendo que o general Omar al-Bashir chegou no poder, tomou o poder em 89, depois de ter derrubado o governo anterior do al-Mahdi, e que partidos políticos foram banidos, né, e a influência do islamismo, cresceu muito no país. Perguntei sobre o que aconteceu nesse período.
Well, al-Bashir, as you mentioned, overthrew al-Mahdi, who was elected prime minister of the country after the people of Sudan revolted the general who killed the communist Jafar Meri and killed many other Sudanese. So when al-Bashir seized power, he kind of embraced a very aggressive sort of liberal economy, and he was more of a pro-free market sort of economy that has led to major crises within Sudan. And although at the same time he has also embarrassed developed and identified as what they called a Muslim Brotherhood sort of political regime that goes to a political Islam. And this has been the case for Bashir since then. He was trying to convert the country from democracy towards an Islamic sort of regime. This is according to what he thinks and what his party thinks at that time. And that party was founded within the region, and also came like the political ideology of Muslim Brothers were the major forces led here in Sudan by Hassan al-Turabi. And Bashir regime, as you can say, has been very, let's say, contradicting its own sort of country. At the same time, they had secretized the relationship with the West. At the same time, they had very terrible relationship with the Western countries and tried to empower terrorism in the region. We hosted at that time, Sudan hosted Bin Laden, the main active terrorist in the Al Qaeda founder, and Bin Laden was very active here in Sudan in terms of economic projects and in terms also of preaching and teaching this sort of extreme ideologies within the country, and that has led to the country that being classified among worldwide because of empowering that. And at the same time, there was the Southern Sudanese resistance has more embarrassed and identified themselves as a left group, which has ties also with the Communist Party and have some sort of leftist sort of programs. However, the Sudanese joined together and tried to resist Bashir, but was very difficult at that time because because it was also like he was using religion at that time in order to govern the country. But in terms of economy, he was very into the very right, extreme right in terms of the country. This has led to deepen and complicate the country economic crisis.
Ok. Bom, ele fala que quando o Bashir está no poder, né, em 89, ele vem com uma política muito agressiva em dois sentidos. Primeiro, assumindo uma postura ultraliberal, quer dizer, uma política de extrema-direita, né, na relação com a economia, o liberalismo total, e isso começa a criar uma enorme crise no país, aumento do desemprego, etc. E, ao mesmo tempo, ele se aproxima do perfil de um país islâmico. Ele quer migrar da democracia burguesa, vamos chamar assim, por um país islâmico, por uma lei islâmica. Né? Então, e com isso, ele deteriora as relações com os países ocidentais e se aproxima da Al-Qaeda. A Al-Qaeda tem base no Sudão e esse extremismo começa a ser difundido no país. Então, se forma uma grande oposição e uma luta muito dura contra o Bashir e essa concepção religiosa. E ele começa a falar agora do Sudão do Sul, né, que se tornou um país independente, e é a pergunta que eu vou fazer. So you were talking about South Sudan. So I'd like you to talk a bit more about South Sudan and the causes for the creation of this new country in 2011.
Well, imperialist countries also had their own interest in South Sudan, because South Sudan has been the main oil producer for many, and Sudan contributes at that time started to explore and produce oil, but the Western world did not have access to the Sudan oil, because at that era they had terrible relationship between Bashir and the Western world. At the same time, the oil was dominated, explored, and exploited by the Chinese companies, and Bashir was pushed by many factors, regional and the resistance also was high. The resistance was also high by the local South Sudanese, because most of the South Sudanese were Christians. They were not Muslims. At the same time, Bashir was trying to impose Sharia laws all over the country, and this also has been fueling this thing. But main issue is the unequal development between the south and the north. But somehow led to major differences between the country, and access for budget to the south was very limited, and at the same time this access to the budget also has influence on the services, like access to education. So most of South Sudan were illiterate, were having very difficult access to the health services, and have very poor health services there, and in compare to other, or the center of the country. But the rest of the country also struggled the same, and also the other thing in Sudan is a very I forgot to tell you that Sudan is a very diverse country in terms of the population. at that time we have over 105 local languages within the country when we were one country. But later, she somehow find a peace agreement that has been supported mainly by the American and by the British and most of the Western world in order to make peace happen in Sudan. So it was signed in 2005 and led as a development to the independence of the South Sudan in 2011. And
Ok. Então, ele fala que a região sul do Sudão tem muito petróleo. Então, isso desperta o interesse dos países imperialistas. Essa é uma razão. Que não tinham acesso, esses países não tinham acesso ao petróleo por conta da política do Bashir, né? Embora liberal na economia, mas ele se aproximou do islamismo, né? Então, com posturas radicais, né? Influenciado pela Al-Qaeda, etc., etc. E que outra característica é que o Sudão do Sul, a região sul do país, tem muitos cristãos, uma presença forte da comunidade cristã que diferenciava do resto do país. E que havia muita desigualdade entre o norte e o sul, no sentido que o orçamento era muito limitado para a região sul. Então, tinha menos educação, por exemplo, né, menos recursos disponíveis. Ele fala que o Sudão é um país muito diversificado, né, tem muitos povos, muitas línguas faladas dentro do país, e que o Bashir acaba costurando um acordo de paz apoiado pelos Estados Unidos e pela Inglaterra por conta desses interesses do petróleo do Sudão do Sul e também para quebrar o país, né, rachar o país, e chega a um acordo de paz que tinha como um dos seus elementos a independência do Sudão do Sul no ano 2011. Okay, so al-Bashir was overthrown in 2019 by a very strong mass movement. What was it like? How did the Sudanese Communist Party take part in this movement? Eu estou perguntando sobre a derrubada do Bashir em 2019. Foi um movimento de massa muito forte e o Partido Comunista teve participação. Estou perguntando como se deu essa manifestação, que nós, inclusive, no nosso jornal, na nossa página, nós demos bastante cobertura a isso.
In fact, before that, I just wanted to point out that before the South get its independence, one year before signing the peace agreement for South Sudan, a major war in the country also was erupted in Darfur in 2004 and became something very horrific because of the militia also involvement in the conflict. And this also would contribute also to why the main first. The Communist Party was on the very heart of overthrowing Bashir, and in fact, the Communist Party was on the very struggle, which has developed the strategy for how these people would overthrow Bashir. But they've called what locally here we called it the resistance committee, and the resistance committee we've called for that in 2010, with exercise establishment in 2013, sort of uprisings, and in 2018, then we had let's say a full thrust sort of action coming from the resisting committee, and we had a series of resisting committee, and also the unions committee, because the Bashir regime has banned unions and has controlled the trade unions. We had to create a sort of committee for unions, and a sort of committee for this union. When I say unions, I mean trade unions, and also for professionals, and the party in 2016 have came to a major program and developed the major slogan for the Sudanese revolution, that it should be freedom, it should be peace, and there should be justice. So freedom, peace, and justice, those are the major. And the third word was the revolution is the choice of the people. So this was the party slogan in 2016, and in 2018, the whole nation came shouting, using this slogan. And also, the whole nation have embraced and adopted the party program as the major program for the whole political alliance that emerged from the resistance, where we've worked hard and we joined hands with the right-wing parties as well. So all the Sudanese parties joined hands together in order to overthrow Bashir, because Bashir was a very sort of nefarious sort of dictator who controlled everything in the country. I can go more to elaborate more on this.
Ok. Bom, ele acrescentou, né, a pergunta anterior sobre o Sudão do Sul, que um ano antes do acordo de paz, houve um recrudescimento da guerra, né, com milícias atuando e tal, por todo o país, foi muito difícil. Bom, agora a pergunta sobre a derrubada do Bashir, ele fala que o Partido Comunista Sudanês, e nós divulgamos isso na nossa página, né, a evolução do movimento, as declarações do Partido Comunista Sudanês, é que o Partido Comunista estava no seio do movimento, no coração do movimento para a derrubada do Bashir, e que foram criados comitês de resistência a partir do ano 2013, que foram realizando levantes, manifestações, né? E 2018 há um recrudescimento dessas ações, com jornadas de luta nas ruas, enfrentamentos com a polícia, né? As forças ligadas ao Bashir, né? E também comitês sindicais, né? Então foram importantes, né, na mobilização para esse enfrentamento, com jornadas de luta nas ruas e tal. Que as palavras de ordem do partido: liberdade, paz e justiça, que conseguiram unir esse grande movimento, e para eles, para os comunistas sudaneses, a revolução tem que ser uma escolha do povo. Isso foi falado, né, e aceito por toda a nação, palavras dele agora, né, que o partido unificou, né, todo esse movimento, com as palavras de ordem e também com o programa da aliança, e que foi uma aliança ampla que incluiu, inclusive, partidos da direita tradicional, vamos chamar assim, contra a ditadura do Bashir e tudo que ela representava. Então, nós divulgamos isso na nossa página, né? Okay, so let me ask you now about the present political situation. So what is going on now in Sudan? And we have some questions here from people who are watching the program. So we still have some time. So let me ask you now about the present situation, the political situation in Sudan. Will there be an election? Estou perguntando agora sobre a situação política atual no Sudão e se vai ter eleição nos próximos tempos. Please.
Well, it's always that it goes to how we overthrow Bashir. This takes us on the details of where would be election, because the present situation became very and seriously complicated because when the Sudanese people organized themselves behind the Sudan Professional Alliance and led their resistance and organized the major sitting in Khartoum that the whole world has watched the pictures. But at the same time, that the way that the Western government interfered through their regional actors in order to obstruct the Sudanese revolution has a deep impact on the present situation, where the army interfered and negotiated with the political power to share the power. We in the Communist Party, we had our program very clear that we want a transitional era that goes for 4 years, that goes for a council of surveillance where it's just a honorarium sort of a council, and we had to have a parliament from the revolutionists or the active people who within the active forces within the revolution, and we had to have a smart prime minister. We will also develop some sort of we agreed among the political forces into a specific economic program. But together, the local bourgeoisie and the local capitalist class here in Sudan have worked hard in order to stand behind the army in order to control the whole political scene, and this has somehow affected the political process, and at the same time will have impact on the future of the countries. I personally am very skeptical that there's going to be any sort of election where we have the head of the local militia is the deputy of the thing. We have the civilian council. We have civilian council which enjoys power, and we have a military guy on the top of the country. And within that, our revolution is still there. So we have all the resistance committees actively involving, but at the same time, also the political forces have agreed into adopting what we call transitional policies, which is not towards the left, but also acceptable among every political forces in the within the alliance that has been working hard to overthrow Bashir. We had economic policies that we wanted to take place, which where we always thought that the state could control the economy. But the present transitional government have went into the more of the structural adjustment policies and implementing the World Bank recipe and implementing the IMF instructions, which is leading to a major political crisis and economic crisis nowadays in Sudan, where the polarization is very hard and the situation has become very difficult. And all these policies were not part of the revolution manifesto. It was just imposed by the Western governments in Sudan through their regional actors.
Ok. Ele fala, né, do processo de derrubada do Bashir, que se deu, né, nas maiores cidades, foi um movimento muito forte, e que simultaneamente, né, há muita influência externa no processo. Estados Unidos e outros países, né, tentaram influir no processo, né, e o exército negociou para dividir o poder com as forças, né, que ele chama de revolucionárias, né, que levaram adiante o processo de enfrentamento da ditadura do Bashir, conseguiram derrubar o Bashir, mas em seguida o exército negocia e ocupa uma parte do poder, né? E que, assim, houve a formação de um conselho político, né, o parlamento reflete esse movimento todo hoje, né, apresentando o parlamento. Tem um primeiro-ministro, né, que tem um programa econômico mais diferenciado, que, por exemplo, defende a maior presença do Estado na condução da economia e tal, mas que a burguesia local, mais os aliados internacionais imperialistas, chegam junto, né, se associam ao exército para assumir o controle da cena política. Então, ele diz que o resultado da luta, né, da mobilização, que ele chama de um processo de revolução, está lá, junto do poder, mas que hoje há uma transição por conta dessas alianças, né, por uma outra política, né, uma política mais favorável à ingerência do Fundo Monetário Internacional, por exemplo, né, com uma nova política econômica mais liberal, e que a situação hoje volta a ser muito difícil no país, por conta dessa mobilização toda. Então, não se sabe exatamente se e quando vai ter eleições, né? Okay, I'd like you to tell us a bit how the Sudanese Communist Party evaluate the perspectives for socialism in Sudan. Estou perguntando como o Partido Comunista avalia a possibilidade de se chegar ao socialismo no Sudão. I guess your microphone is off.
Sorry.
You got to turn on the microphone.
Yes. Our own great regret, and which we criticize ourselves on, is that we've intentionally created an alliance with the right wing and with the right parties as a left, but at the same time we assume that they are going to implement what we agreed in, and what we agreed in would have led to establish a very strong transitional period. But among that, the right-wing parties and our bourgeoisie have worked hard in order to control the whole economy of the country and to implement the thing. Indeed, they were not capable of without external external actors like the US, like the British, and like with their regional actors, which is come to major UAE, which the country plays a very terrible role in the destabilizing Sudan here nowadays, because it controls the whole gold trade of the country. The country is very rich also of gold. So it's about defining the timing. It's about defining the timing where a communist can continue with the right wing in an alliance in order to reach the thing. We should have defected or revealed their their intention to overthrow the agreed political program or policies that we've all agreed on. But unfortunately, we gave them an opportunity to step ahead because we assume that they're going our transitional government is going to implement some of the agreed benchmarks or policies, or at least until now, we had a government that we pushed hard to be in power, which don't allow our own trade unions to operate after 2 years of transitional period. No matter what is the reason behind that, it's a big shame for and nowadays we have a militia guy who's leading the country and the thing. So for us, the lesson learned very clear is if you are putting your hands together with the right wing, also you should know where to take your hand off the deal, because the interest of the proletariat will never meet with the interest of the local bourgeoisie or the capitalist of the countries. So, and they will and external forces would not stay away from the country. They will always remain active. So we have now came to analyzing this transitional authority, which we think is not going to implement the programs, is not going to make a genuine transition happen in the country. And although the whole program and the whole structures of the thing our party has contributed to, but we think it's not going to work because they dominate the process and they control the power nowadays, and we are kind of more into the streets and more into the public arena, where we are happy to be there because that's our, by default, that's our role, on which we will continue. So the whole idea of this also goes into how a communist can contribute to organize the masses, and how would that the masses would make them educate themselves on the program, because at that time that's how we still enjoy some grounds which would always enable resistance of this exploiting sort of alliance against the public from outside the country by the Western world, and from inside the country by their local agents, which the compradors that they operate.
Ok. Bom, ele fala que para derrubar o Bashir, né, e tudo que ele representava, foi feita uma aliança com setores da direita tradicional, né, do país, por um movimento de transição, né, por uma outra configuração, com programa político, com mudanças na economia, etc. Mas a direita, por sua natureza, ela tenta assumir o controle desse processo, aliada a atores externos, interesses do imperialismo, né? Então, o que eles estão tentando fazer é estabelecer esse tempo aí, esse timing, né? E que essa aliança ainda é necessária para fazer a transição do regime anterior e para fazer cumprir o programa político acordado, político e econômico acordado, né? Mas que até agora são mantidas, por exemplo, restrições sérias aos sindicatos, que não conseguem ainda ter a plena liberdade para atuar, e que hoje o país é dirigido por um miliciano. A palavra não tem o mesmo sentido que aquilo. Lá, o miliciano é uma força militar, né? Então, está sendo dirigido por um militar, e que o posicionamento deles começa a se definir contra a burguesia local e essa aliança externa com o imperialismo, né? Então, eles estão começando a questionar essa nova autoridade, que não está cumprindo o programa, né? E eles estão voltando a atuar com mais força na arena pública, nas lutas, que, nas palavras dele, é o lugar deles, é o lugar dos comunistas, né? E que eles veem, nessa perspectiva do socialismo, a necessidade de seguir organizando as massas, para que as massas se eduquem, e ele usou a expressão que elas próprias se eduquem também, né? E para isso o programa que eles apresentam é fundamental, um programa de transformações, e que vai haver um momento deles saírem dessa coligação atual, da transição, e jogarem mais peso na mobilização de massa, na mobilização popular, com a perspectiva de uma mudança mais profunda para o socialismo. Okay, so we are getting to the end of our time, but I'd like to ask you about the presence of imperialism in the country. So we know that CIA has a very strong base, maybe the strongest in Africa. But we've heard that Russia also has a military base in the country. Is that right? Is that correct? Estou perguntando sobre a presença do imperialismo, a presença física do imperialismo no Sudão. É conhecido que a CIA tem uma base muito grande no Sudão, que é a maior da África. Mas também tem uma notícia recente que a Rússia tem uma base militar. Estou perguntando se é isso mesmo.
Yes, you're right. The CIA has one of the biggest bases here in Sudan, and they're very active. The Americans are very active in Sudan through their policies also. So putting Sudan for years in the list of the country that hosts terrorism and stuff like this. Nowadays, they're in the process of removing it from it. But all this is about the geographical and strategical place of the country within the Middle East, and also about the access to many other African countries, and also about the resources within Sudan. Russians are here because of the uranium, and now they have got their own military base in Sudan. Shamefully, by our own, invited to that by to have that base by Bashir, but the transitional government have endorsed that in order to continue Bashir's thing, because the transitional government now is being led by Bashir's security committee, and that's the army. The head of the army, all of them, they are Bashir's generals. They are very loyal to them, and they continue his policies. And for the Americans, they are pushing hard to the country to, in order, well, let's say, to what we heard from some of them, that they're somehow anti-communist. They think the country is more towards the left, and somehow they want to push for this agenda of the country becomes a model for sort of liberal economy, and to embrace that. But through all those interests, the local regional actors is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is also the UAE, and our neighbor Egypt. They're all acting active regional actors on behalf of the American imperialist interests in Sudan, and within that also the Brits continue as a major also ally for the Americans in this, and our own struggle will always continue, because we are not even there in terms of establishing, but our own struggle also becomes for peace. And the key for our, if we did something successful, the key is through peaceful organizing the thing, because the country is very sensitive. It's full of militia, and the whole resistance, we've pushed hard that it becomes very peaceful, and the whole political process is to reject any sort of military solution to the struggle, because we think that that's what the imperialist power want to take the country to that dimension where they can happily use and support some of the arms groups or arms militias in order to think. But the country also is exercising an interest where Israel also want to play a major role also in dismantling the whole Sudan, and to become around. We heard that there's a project by them that to dismantle the country into 4 different countries, and this is also something, or 5 different countries, or 5 independent countries, or those are all the intelligence theories that they are active within the region. But our resistance will continue, and the Sudanese people are now very active in terms of the thing, and we can say politically educated about their interest, about the interest of the country, about the importance of peace, and about the importance of peaceful resistance, and about also the economic policies that they. We think also this alliance among the compradors and the regional forces made it very clear for any observer, and made the options very clear for the young people of Sudan to determine the country. We are not the force in the country, but we are very active and a major player in the country.
Bom, ele fala que o interesse, né, das potências estrangeiras no Sudão é por conta da posição geográfica, que ele interfere, né, ele tem fronteiras com vários países, e também pela presença de recursos minerais, né, numerosos e volumosos, né? E também porque a orientação do país está voltando a ter uma orientação econômica liberal, né? Então tem vários países que tentam interferir no Sudão: Arábia Saudita, Egito, né? Inclusive Israel, né, que tem uma ligação mais direta com os Estados Unidos, né? Então isso justifica, né, explica esse interesse externo no Sudão. Por isso a CIA, né, que tem uma base grande no país, mas ele diz que a luta continua, né, que há uma rejeição a soluções militares, né. Para eles a paz é muito importante, que a paz é capaz de gerar as condições, né, para um enfrentamento político e não um enfrentamento baseado em luta militar. Ele fala das milícias. Milícia lá significa grupo armado, não como no Brasil, grupo armado. E que a luta popular está se mantendo, né, que o povo está bastante ativo, a resistência está continuando, né, e que há um aumento na consciência, né, quanto à necessidade, né, de uma mudança, inclusive em relação à política econômica. E que, recentemente, é verdade, a Rússia também coloca uma base militar no Sudão, o que pode ter consequências de um certo equilíbrio aí nessa disputa. Okay, now we have some questions here from people who are watching the program. So I'll ask both questions at the same time. So the first one is, our watcher asks you about how Islamism sees the capitalism and popular resistance. He asks you about how Islamism considers capitalism. He wants to know what the relation is between the two things, and also popular resistance, how these forces are, how they behave now. And the second question is, I guess you have already answered it partially. How Sudan places itself geopolitically in the region, considering sub-Saharan Africa, and how it develops this influence. And he also wants to know about the communist movement in this region.
So,
let me translate the questions. São duas perguntas. Uma pergunta é sobre como o Islã, né, o islamismo, vê o capitalismo e a resistência popular. E a segunda pergunta do nosso querido amigo Marcelo Chauhel é como o Sudão se situa geopoliticamente, isto é, considerando a África Mediterrânea e subsaariana, e como se desenvolve o movimento comunista nessa região.
But the Islamism have always adopted the free economy, and they adopted the free market thing, so they don't have issues on resistance, because resistance at the heart of it, or at the bottom line of it, is the resistance of those policies, because those policies will take you into international trade, and will take you into the, and you understand what I'm saying, that our own Islamists, like many around the world, are adopting the free economy model. We never heard about active socialist Islamism or something like this in Sudan, although some group have tried to create an ideology between. And for the regional forces, we are somehow very independent from our religion. As a communist, we have ties with many other socialist and communist parties around us and all over the world, but somehow we don't have, for example, active coordination with the regional actors, forests, because of their own situation. We're looking at countries that were contributing, like Saudi Arabia, like UAE, and those are the key players. But within the region, there is somehow a setback in terms of communist forces. But I think we in Sudan in a better position than other regional actors. And the one that you've also mentioned about the geostrategy, the whole thing about Sudan is about access for Red Sea. Like the interest of the UAE would mainly be the gold of Sudan, and which makes around $4 billion of UAE gold refinery there, and also the Red Sea, the route for the global trade through the Red Sea, where we have access to the Red Sea, and the same access goes into most of the regional, the neighboring countries. They enjoy the access through us. So also this is very important, and that's why the country is strategically is very important, because of the global trade, the global trade route through the Red Sea. We are there. We are important in that term, and also in the thing. Our port is the main target of the imperialist power. They are very interested in controlling the port, and in making the port privatized in order to have the companies run it.
Ok. Bom, a resposta dele, né? Muitos países islâmicos adotam o livre mercado, adotam a economia de mercado. Então, não existe uma relação direta entre islamismo e socialismo. Alguns podem migrar para esse campo, outros não, né? Então, segundo ele, a maioria dos países islâmicos não marcha para o socialismo. Eles têm políticas de mercado, né? Capitalistas, políticas liberais. Em relação aos outros partidos, ele diz que há outros partidos comunistas na região, lembra o Quênia, tem outros países com partidos comunistas bastante ativos, né? Mas que eles, no Partido Comunista Sudanês, têm uma ação independente, eles não estão atuando de forma coordenada com outros partidos da região, porque as realidades são muito diferentes. Então, tem um intercâmbio, mas é uma atuação independente, por conta, como ele afirmou, da diferença das realidades desses países. Bom, ele reafirma que o interesse estrangeiro no Sudão se dá por causa das riquezas minerais. Ele situou a produção do ouro valendo 4 bilhões de dólares, o ouro sudanês, né? Por isso atrai atenção, e também porque o Sudão ele influi no controle ali do acesso ao Mar Vermelho, né? Então, todo o comércio global, uma parte importante do comércio global passa por ali, e também em relação ao comércio com os países vizinhos. Então, o Sudão tem uma posição estratégica e, por isso, ele é um alvo da ação imperialista. Well, we got to the end of our time, and I would like to thank you very much on behalf of the Brazilian Communist Party. I guess the interview was very interesting, and we expect to keep on working together towards socialism. You gotta turn your microphone on.
Thank you very much for
microphone
this. Thank you very much in listening to our experience, and we look more into the success of the resistance in order to move ahead, and we hope that we will be able to contribute to our country and also to exchange experiences and lesson learned with other communist party, which we appreciate very much the interest of the listeners. Thank you very much.
Eu agradeci em nome do Partido Comunista, né, brasileiro, né, pela participação dele, foi uma entrevista muito interessante. E ele agradece, né, pelo convite e diz que tem também o desejo, assim como nós, continuar trocando experiências e trabalhando em conjunto no rumo do socialismo. So, comrade, thank you very much, and let's keep on working together. Ok? Thank you. E eu agradeci, disse que nós vamos continuar trabalhando juntos. Eu queria aproveitar para convidar a todos que estão assistindo para a próxima edição do Conexão Internacional, que será nessa quarta-feira, dia 27, 8 da noite, será um debate sobre as ditaduras militares aqui no Cone Sul da América Latina. Teremos a participação de Paraguai, Argentina e Brasil. Então, estão todos convidados para essa próxima edição na semana que vem. Então, obrigado, uma boa tarde para todos.